Welcome to the Do Good Work podcast. Today we are talking about leading the future of work, how to increase your team's productivity and profit in the new economy. A quick note on the future of work. This remote economy, working asynchronously, has always been here, but we haven't had a mass shift of the majority of the workforce to be in a remote setting, to work from home, as well as leveraging and understanding how asynchronous communication can actually help impact and drive not only productivity, but also productivity with purpose, productivity with profit. And we're going to dive into both of these two terms, productivity and profitability, to help you kind of work as a leader to empower your team to communicate better, get more of the right things done, and ensuring that we are effective, because that's the end goal here, making sure that we drive the right actions and produce the right results, because without it, there is no business, there is no function, and there really would be wasting our time. So on productivity, we're going to be discussing how communication happens within your organization right now and identifying the key gems within a conversation. And that key gem is always going to be an idea to implement, take action on, that can change the future of the company or can change a very simple day-to-day experience that you have through an idea. So every piece of communication within your company right now has these gems hidden in it. And I want to make sure that we can help you extract those. So there are essentially three facets of an idea. The first is the actual communication of an idea. Me communicating here with you. This is a communication. This is a facet. The next is information that's relevant or related to a key idea. This information, when you have it in a conversation, you can either store, document, and either use today or use in the future. And then lastly, we have the execution of an idea. Now, when it comes to executing the idea, we need to make sure that we execute the right ideas at the right time or not execute them, because that is actually an action. That's a decision. That's a choice. So as a leader, it's our job to shorten the gap between information and action. Again, information coming through from communication channels. And as you probably know, we communicate on so many channels. We're communicating on Zoom, on Slack, on Teams, Messenger, text, etc. So many. So from there, we need to extract what is the information that we can use today or use later. And two, if we're going to take action, what relevant information do we need to take action based on an idea? So if you're working with your team and you're overwhelmed with the number of communications that are happening, highly recommend that we actually streamline our communications into 1 or 2 channels max. This is possible, especially if you're leading larger teams. Like, this isn't just something that you do with a small group of 5 to 20. This can be with departments of 50, 60, 100 people. Yes, it is possible. We can show you how. Like, honestly, if you use Slack or you use Teams, you can use those. Or if you use a project management software that actually has communication within it, you can use that as well. The one tool that you probably will always have to use, regardless, is going to be email, but this is for external, outward-facing communication. Do not recommend you use email for your internal team communication. If you've proven this model that you can manage effectively, not get things lost with email, I want to talk to you and I want to interview you, because I don't believe that's the best way of doing things. Now, when you streamline this communication, you want to obviously retrain the team and the purpose of why we're streamlining communication. One of the ways to do this, and I'm actively doing right now, is retraining individuals like, hey, I'm not going to respond to this text message and it has to go in Slack or it has to go in XYZ. And you have to do that first with a verbal confirmation that you're not going to be responding with this channel, but 2, also actually taking the action and not responding. This will be a little difficult at first, but it's important to streamline, because again, this is going to be an overall productivity shift that will lead to better outcomes for the company. And we need to believe in the light at the end of the tunnel. So if there's any word that you need, just trust this word, to believe in the light at the end of the tunnel, that we will be more productive, push things forward faster, be able to be more effective in the actions that we take by streamlining our communications. Now, once you streamline those communications, it's also now best to really have a place to store information to use today or to use tomorrow, because there's only 2 times that information is ever useful: right now or later. If the information is not useful, it's important for you as a leader, and it's your duty to really prune out information that's not necessary or that won't help you accomplish a purpose within the company. If you keep all the information coming and it's irrelevant, then you're just creating noise, which creates drag, which creates waste and slows you down. So those are the two things. Streamline communications. Within each communication, then store information and have that information accessible by the parties who need access to it. For example, if you have team A and team B, making sure that you store the information where either team A can access their information and team B can access their information, as opposed to having it somewhere stored where you become now the bottleneck and people are asking you, hey, where can I find this file? Or where can I get this sheet? Where can I get this document? When we start doing that and we start running through a bottleneck of access, it's just, again, going to create more drag and friction when it comes to implementation. So those are a good primer on productivity through communication, through extracting the right ideas, storing them, and taking action. Now, the key thing is, how do we become effective with this productivity? Because productivity alone does not equal effectiveness. I'll say that again. Productivity does not equal effectiveness, because you can be productive at doing the wrong things. This is where the old adage of busy is an excuse, or busy work isn't productive work. Anyone can be busy, but not everyone can be effective. But not you. You listening to this, you will be effective. Now, when we align productivity with the right actions, we yield or get a business return on effectiveness, meaning we're taking the right actions at the right time, getting the right outcomes, and making sure that we move the company, the team, the business forward. So one way that I like to do this, and you might see this if you ever get on a phone call with me, is I want to make sure that we always focus on opportunities first. So when you're looking at, well, what are the right actions to take? A good question is to start, what are the actual opportunities right now? And this is a little different from a lot of the literature out there right now discussing, let's talk about our issues and go through that first, and then X, Y, Z. That's literally important. But if you focus on issues first, you're wasting your brain power, your fresh energy on solving a problem and doing maintenance mode versus opportunity. And as a leader, especially when you're working with other leaders and you're spending an hour together, not only is that hour a very expensive hour for the company, but you also should be investing in how can you get a larger return on that hour. Again, this is not about, keeping tallies or keeping marks, but it's important to think about it in this format, because if we go to opportunities first, then it actually primes our mind to look into our teams or departments, whatever you're managing, your actual company, and say, what can we actually do? What's the biggest thing that we can focus on? And if we solve this one thing, it might solve 5 of these small issues that we're trying to face, or it'll give us a better standing when we're solving those issues. When you align with opportunities, then those right ideas we can start prioritizing and executing upon. And this is where the beauty and this is where the fun in leadership comes in, at least for me, is when you're now orchestrating action and you're facilitating movement within the organization. You're making things happen, but almost from like as a symphony where things are ordered, communications are streamlined, information is fluid, transparent, and accessible, and actions are being taken literally like while you're listening to this podcast, where things are happening without you. And I believe leadership doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. There are other deeper things within leadership, but that main point of being effective and being profitable, making sure that we make a return on every action that we do, because that is a priority for business. And this isn't a capitalist only, zero-sum game of profitability. It's focusing on outputs, focusing on progress, focusing on impact. And to do that, you need to be profitable. You need to make sure that things move forward effectively. But I don't think leadership needs to be more complicated than that. And I believe that you can accomplish this as well just by these 2 simple things: streamlining communications, keeping transparency across all channels and communications and information, but then also focusing on prioritizing opportunities and orchestrating the change, making things happen. And I think that's the beauty that we can lead towards, down the path with what you're listening to here with the Do Good Work podcast, but also with everything that you do within your company to make sure that you drive the change that you're seeking to do to drive the company's mission forward. So there you go. That's our episode for this week. If you'd like to get more resources or frameworks and strategies, just head to the website dogoodwork.io. We'll be publishing more of these weekly, and make it a good one.